As you're aware, we started working on the design of the Main Street project in about 2014. We met with you several times through our public involvement meetings, and the original schedule that we had anticipated was to build the project this year, and that obviously did not happen. And working with the city officials, we thought it was important to meet with you and kind of give you an update of where we're at and maybe explain a little bit about what happened. And there's a handout out there that I'm going to use. This is just going to be a short presentation just to kind of talk about what happened and what we're doing going forward, and maybe answer some questions if you have them. So we'll be here for about an hour tonight. But so as I said, we started on design in 2014. We had what we call a letting in March of this year, anticipating like normal urban projects that we'd have several bidders. And unfortunately, we had one bidder. And the difference between what that bid price was and what our engineer's estimate was way more than we thought was prudent to go forward with awarding the project. So it was rejected ultimately. That caused a lot of hardship with folks that were expecting the project. The utilities are out there moving things around. It requires us to go another year before we be dealing with kind of the mess that's out there right now. We did a little investigation to see what happened. We wanted to make sure that we didn't miss something in design, and reached out to some of the contractors, and we were hearing that most of them were busy. The economy's doing well. There's a lot of work out there. Several of them had basically a really heavy amount of private work, such that that there was closer stuff to their offices. There was projects that were less complex, maybe less restrictive, and were some of the contributing factors why they didn't bid on our project, and which was a setback and was sort of disappointing. But once again, like I said, the price that we saw was quite high, and it was not a prudent use of taxpayer money, either on the state side or the city side, and we decided not to go forward with that award. So what we did do is decided we're going to try to relet this project in November of this year, and what that gains us is going into 2019 next year. This is earlier in the bidding time of the year, where we're hoping that more contractors are going to be looking for work instead of maybe a March letting like we had this past March, where many contractors might have already had a lot of work, and it's kind of like what we heard. So this time we're going to get it on the front side. There were various reasons why we were not able to do that this past letting, but you know, it is what it is. That's really water over the dam, and we're moving forward trying to do what we can to make sure we're successful this time. Some of the things that the design team looked into was, is there ways of making the project a little more biddable? You know, maybe making it something that the contractors will look a little more heavy at. And once again, the one thing that we did is we're going to let it earlier this year. But our plan is that the project is going to be let in November, which allows the contractor to start when the frost comes out of the ground earlier in the year. So we're anticipating a March 2019 start. We still have the plan to carry over. We've got a lot of work to do in 1 year, and looking at production rates and how much the contractors can get done, it's a little bit much than they can get done in 1 year. So we are going to have the southmost stage from Woodland Beach Drive would be finished in the spring of 2020. So the first couple months of the year, we'd finish up the remainder of the project. We're also looking, although I don't think the restrictions that we had were out of the ordinary. We had things related to school and some of the festivals in the city and whatnot that we were forcing the contractor to work around. We had stage one, which is the downtown portion, that the contractor couldn't start south of there until he minimally had gravel on that section downtown. And we looked at and talked to the city officials, is there a way that we can open up more of the project? Because we've seen this on other projects, that the underground work gets done, the contractors want to keep going, and if they got to send a crew home and wait and then come back in and mobilize again, that adds a cost and maybe something that potential bidders would not look favorably on. So we're looking for ways that we can open up more of the jobs of the project for these guys to work on, which we're hoping is going to increase our bidability and invite a few more guys to show some interest. As we know, there's also a couple other projects that the department is working on. We've got a bridge replacement on County Q, and also that's Q over I-94. Also, Rock Creek eastbound is another bridge that we've got that's planned to go next year as well. Those two are still going to happen next year based on available funding. So we're anticipating it's going to be available. However, sometimes it doesn't happen till very late, whether or not they decide that they can actually go forward and build the project in a year. So we're anticipating that's going to happen in 2019, but we can't guarantee it. We also started looking at, County Trunk A was a deck replacement. That's in the north end of Mulberry Street. And Airport Road were two other bridges over I-94 that were supposed to go next year as well. Fully knowing that Mulberry Street is planned to go for next year, we were trying to find ways to make things a little less hard on the folks in the city here, and we were able to delay those. So County Trunk A and Airport Road are not going to happen in 2019. They're going to happen in 2020. So that'll sort of free up things. It'll maybe be just a little less hectic up on the north end of Mulberry. But that was something else that we decided we were trying not to have too much work in one year, because having Mulberry and Main Street going in the same year is going to be tough enough. But I think the conditions of both roadways, we just got to go forward and get these things done. And you know, it's going to be asking for some patience from everybody, but that's kind of what we run into in these construction projects. So we try to do what we can to limit hardship and inconvenience, but we can't make it all go away. And a lot of times it becomes a team effort between the contractor, the residents and businesses, and the folks that I'll have out in the field running the project. So another thing that we did is we mentioned something in the language of our projects. Some of the contract special provisions, it tells the contractor stuff that he needs to do as part of building the Main Street. We also mentioned coordination with Mulberry Street. So Mulberry Street's going to get let a couple months after Main Street, but the fact that we're drawing attention to this other local project, we're hoping that maybe contractors will look at this as a nice package of work, that they've got a fairly sizable Main Street project. They've also got a decent-sized Mulberry that mobilizing into the city and taking care of two jobs. Maybe the second project will see some cost benefits of the fact that contractors are already here, or maybe some of the subcontractors working are already here, that maybe you'll see some cost savings. I mean, it's just speculation, but just some of the things that we're thinking to try to encourage a better bidding atmosphere and hopefully seeing more contractors show some interest in the job. So that's kind of all I had to really talk about. We felt like it was important to talk to you. We've been out here several times, and everybody was fully anticipating the project happening this year, which did not happen. And just to let you know that we are aggressively trying to do what we can to improve the product here, make the project biddable, and really hoping that we see more bidders and better prices in November of this year, that we can get this done next. Well, I don't know if anybody's got any questions, but sure.
Yeah, why would you let it bid in March? If you're going to build a house, you give yourself your independent man.
Yep. As I alluded to the first time around, there was a lot of things in the design end that we didn't have enough time to get completed to do a November letting, which was kind of what you're talking about, is getting on the front end of when contractors are looking for work. And there's various reasons. There was, I believe there was some real estate interest that we were trying to acquire, and there was some environmental situations that we were trying to get through that continue to push the project back, that we couldn't get the plans completely done to accommodate something earlier than March. And so March ended up being the date that we could get our plans in by. And as I said earlier, we don't typically see one bidder on a project. It seems like whether it's November, December, January, February, March, we tend to get more than one bidder. It was just a really weird bidding climate. There was a lot of private work. The economy's doing well, and as I said, that's what these guys told us, is there was a lot of other work out there where other years maybe that wouldn't have been the case, but it just so happened to be this year that it was.
Why did you start the project then?
Why did we not start the project?
Why didn't you start?
The work that's getting done out there is utility relocation. So we're what we call is a reconstruction. So we're completely tearing out the roadway. We're putting all curb and gutter, sidewalk, no storm sewer. We're putting new laterals for sewer and water in the downtown portion. Likewise, going south, it's mains and it's laterals and everything else. So the existing utility companies, the private utilities, are in the way of that effort, and they need to move out of it and really open the project up for what we need to do with our project. And
Why did it start if it wasn't? Everything's being delayed for you.
yeah, I understand that. And yes, sure, I understand. I get it. Give me a chance to answer, okay? I understand it's frustrating. What we typically like to see is the contractors to be out of the way before the contractors come to start on the roadway work. So they were anticipating the project was going to have a contractor on it. So the utility companies were doing their moves. That's kind of the things that we require. We want them out of the way, so when the roadway contractor comes out there, he doesn't have utility companies in his way. He's got access to the roadway, he can build it. And that's what was taking place earlier. The utility companies, as we had instructed them to do, start getting your stuff out of our way. And that effort was taking place. Now, everybody anticipating that we were going to be having a successful bid, which we didn't have. The work is still going on, but it's not complete yet. So now they're just continuing with the effort that they were doing, and they're going to be out of the way for next year, hopefully if we have a bidder.
Usually don't you get contracts committed for like phase 2 before you do phase 1?
See, that's the difference between, in this case, we've got a roadway project, and the relocation of the utility companies being done, they're paying for that. They're on right away by permit, and when they're in the way, they need to move. So that takes place earlier than the contractor starts the work.
No.
So that is really what was taking place. It was happening earlier before the roadway contractor started.
But when did you know that you weren't going to have a successful bid? When did you decide that?
As is alluded to in the paperwork here, we had what we call a letting in March of this year. And what a letting is seeking bids from contractors. So they take a look at the project and they put a bid in. If the bid is acceptable to us, we will award that project. So the letting was in early March. Shortly after that, we saw we had one bidder, and the price was very high. So we knew that we weren't going to actually award the project because, like I said, it was very expensive and it was way higher than what is reasonable for this type of a project. So at that point, we did not award the project. So it was mid-March probably when we realized we had one bidder and we weren't going to award the project. And already the utility contractors had been started already before that, which is typical for our projects. We want them out of the way before we start the roadway.
Not even putting the bid out until March, it was supposed to start in 2019.
It's going to be all in November, not March.
No, this last year. What a waste.
I'm not following.
Okay, if you wanted this project done now in the spring and summer of 2018, you were waiting until March to let out the bid, says the bid, as the other gentleman over there said.
Yeah, and I think I explained to you why that was. We couldn't get the design completed in time, and so that's why it was. Because we felt we were going to have a successful bidding, and had we had a successful bidding, we would have had a contractor working this year, and this all would have worked out fine. That was something that I can't predict. I don't know if contractors are going to show interest in our projects or not. It's speculation on my part. I can't make people bid projects, and if there's other work available, we don't know that. You know, it's not something I can predict. Now, maybe I'm not answering your question. I'm not sure what you're asking.
No, mismanagement. To have all the stuff take place and now everything sits there for the next year.
And
Was the last project manager, did he
Okay, you know, that's fine, and I'm sorry you feel that way. You know, we do what we can on our end to make this turn out perfect. In this case, it didn't. And if you feel like it's mismanagement, you know, it's unfortunate, but we do the best we can. So I'll have another question, sure.
Who's responsible for the cleanup that needs to be done in our yards? There's rocks, there's debris in the tree lawn and in our front yards.
So is this related to the work, this utility work that's been going on so far?
Yes.
Okay, we'll need to take a look at that. It's really, the utility companies are permitted to do this work on city right of way and possibly your property. I don't know if they're going off of city right of way or where they're going. If they leave things that are a mess, rocks and that, really they're supposed to be addressing that.
Okay, who should we contact in regards to this?
I guess you can contact my design team, and we can work with the city to find out who the company that's working out there, and get them to address that.
There are quite a few homeowners that have debris in their yards.
Okay, and I don't know if anybody from the city is aware of, is there anybody reached out to the utility companies and you're not getting success on that?
Well, they're still working on the sidewalks and some of the connections and some of the pedestals.
So it's not complete yet?
The primary one is intercom, but Frontier has some work as a keeper. So yeah, the contractors, we've put them on notice, them particularly grinding, as you know, grinding intercom on the sidewalks. And we did check with them today, or no, yesterday, about making sure that the landscaping was done appropriately. So I heard some comments when I came in tonight and called Paul Brinson,
Okay.
let him know, because we have a lot of contacts with the foreman for both companies, and if they're dumping the appropriate material into those sites.
I mean, this is a similar situation to the sidewalk downtown that was pretty rough. I've had to go back and have the contractor redo. I see they're redoing some of that poor workmanship because it's got to last till next year. And this is kind of in the same vein as that these guys are doing their relocation. There are going to be some areas that are not going to be perfect because we're coming back in there next year and we're going to tear everything all up. And, you know, like I said, provided I have a bidder. If I don't have a bidder, I'm back in the same ballpark again, and I don't know what to tell you after that because I quite likely, I don't know, maybe I won't have a job then, so I don't know, we'll see what happens. Sure.
What's the situation on this hookup of the electrical? And I've got a hole next to my house since last September, and they actually discharged in all the pipes and that. And it was fine during the winter, but once this rain started, I flagged down a couple of people boys and asked them for some plywood to cover that, otherwise I was going to have water in my basement.
Well, once again, the utility companies are not under my control or my direction, but we can once again, we can make a list of these things that are sitting out there that have been not addressed, and we can follow up between my design team and myself, and with the help from the city, we can maybe put a little pressure on these guys to address some of these things.
I've talked to Paul a number of times, and he's checking around trying to get the Spring City, I guess is the one that's doing a part of Peeper Line, and there are people on South Main Street that don't even answer their doors apparently because they aren't hooked up. Why can't the rest of us get hooked up if these other people either aren't home or don't want to answer their doors? You know, it's a variety. Last I heard there were 12 to 15 people on South Main Street that still aren't hooked up even toward their house. I mean, my lines are all laying there in the hole, you know, covered up with plywood thankfully now. But now I've lost all my houses and stuff, they were going on. It's just, somebody has to put some pressure on this electrical stuff, at least get it inside the house.
Okay. Well, I mean, if that's...
The problem is though, is that if you can't get a hold of a property owner, you can't get a hold of a property owner, and if you can't make the connection, you can't close out the contract, and they hang on to those issues.
Steve, I'll tell you, the intercom said they knocked on my door several times. I'm not home during the day, my wife's not home during the day. They didn't leave any note or anything that they were trying to contact us. And that may be part of the problem.
And we have to kind of separate, I don't have anything to do with intercom. If you want, that would be a WE issue that you should track.
It's for an example.
Yeah, with the electric lines, I have a little bit more control. And so I kind of have an idea of what the processes that they're going through. And it gets to be difficult, and we try and get them to go on off hours. We've encouraged them to do that, and I understand that there are a lot of people here who work in Madison and aren't available during the day. And that's been a significant problem for these guys who want to come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and be gone by 3:30 in the afternoon. And so we're trying to figure that out. It's not a typical situation that they run into, I guess.
Isn't it to their benefit to get this job completed though?
Yes, it is. Don't ask me to explain contractors all the time. That's a very difficult process. I would think that would be to their benefit to have it done as soon as possible. You get out of the city and be done with it. Generally, what I've experienced is that if they ever run into something that slows their project down, they pull out of town, they go do another job, and they don't come back until they're done with that job.
Well, what made it worse was I had an appointment on March 9th for the electrician at Spring City to come and get it inside the house. Never showed up, when they answered phone calls, left messages, still sitting here, almost 3 months later. And it would make sense to me that all the rest of the people that maybe still have to be connected and have all the wires there, the platforms are laying there, have them come back and get this inside the house and then worry about the other 12 or 15 people that they can't contact. Some of us are retired and can be around at any point in time. I feel for John and other ones that are, not all the time. But it'd be nice to at least have an appointment that they would done. Number two, it'd be nice to have them come back and finish it.
Again, contractors tend to want to do it all in one push. They want to come in and do all of them in one visit to the city, and the fact that they blew off an appointment, I find very disappointing. I didn't know that,
Are you guys aware of some of these situations with utility company? I mean, do we need to have some stuff written down, and that, me and the design team can reach out to some of those utility moves that are not being handled by, I know one group, Peeper, you said, is the one that you guys are managing?
Yeah, Peeper and Spring Hill.
Okay.
And actually, Spring Hill is a subcontractor of Peeper, so we just deal with Peeper. They go to Spring Hill.
So like the hole that he's talking about is related to other utility moves that are not associated with the stuff Peeper's doing? Okay, like you said, intercon?
It's kind of like we've experienced this with the property acquisition. That was our first notification that there was going to be some difficulty getting people out of in the regular hours. And then the lead lateral services gave us a real strong indication that if you're not willing to come on a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, you may not ever see the river. But I hadn't heard anything about the contractors having problems, so I'll check on that.
Okay, because if you've got a list of these concerns that we're hearing tonight, I mean, our team could start looking into this, and we can start making some phone calls to, we do have, although you guys were, as a city, were the permitting authority, we still were involved a lot in those work plans to get that stuff moved, so we can, yeah, and we can continue to do that, so.
So I'm a little bit confused then, the work that's being done now with utilities, that's not part of the bid?
That's not part of the roadway work, no, it's not. What was that? That money is, as I said before, that the utility companies are on right-of-way by permit, and they're allowed to stay there by permit. When we do a construction project and they're in the way, that's their cost, they need to move. And that's that work that's taking place right now. It's not part of my roadway project for Main Street, and,
Bid model separate. So We Energies bid theirs out, the city bid theirs out, Frontier bid theirs out, Charter bid theirs out. And then we all have to be out of the
So we
right.
accepted the bid on the utilities, but not on the,
It's not part of the state highway project. They're the individual company's responsibility. They have to get out of the way before the actual street project starts. So, a lot of the ways it works is like, the electric utility went on and got a bunch of easements, got the proposals done, and was prepared to move their lines. They were going underground, they were taking all the poles down. Or I shouldn't say that, we were taking all our stuff off poles. Charter opted to go with us, so when we bury our conduit, we have two lines buried at the same time, and then Charter gets pulled in one, we get pulled in the other. Frontier was going to stay on the poles and leave their lines up where they are, and just move the poles. And we put a lot of pressure on them. They ultimately decided to go underground too. So both Charter and Frontier paid us to pull an additional conduit, and then they do their own wiring, or have a contractor do their own wiring. Intercon is a contractor for We Energies, and We Energies, right here, would have sent them notice that we have a project coming. They need to schedule to get their gas lines out of the way. We had several meetings with all the utilities, and they would look at the construction plans and then determine where they were going to put their utilities. So like We Energies ultimately decided to put a gas main on the west side and a gas main on the east side because they didn't want to have services running across the street when we were digging, because that sanitary sewer was going to be so deep. They figured their gas mains would collapse into the hole. So there are all kinds of situations that we were dealing with, but each one of those companies has to do their own engineering, do their own analysis, and then pay for their own construction to get out of the way of the street project, including the city of Lake Mills electric utility.
like early in the process, we put a plan together, and we kind of know where our storm sewer underground is going to go. Another component is the city's brand new sewer and water, that the sewer and water mains are going in there as well, and that's underground as well. So we show this to the utility companies that are currently occupying part of the right-of-way and show them this is what we're intending on doing. And they come back and give us a work plan, what they're going to do to get out of our way. And this work that's taking place right now is part of that work plan. That's what they are moving their stuff to get out of the way of the sewer and water and the storm sewer that we're going to put in with the roadway project.
so water, some of the lead lines will happen with the roadway.
I believe that's the intention, yeah.
Yes.
So that sewer, I don't think you don't have any water line work going on. There is water line work?
We have done some lead services on South London Street, but not a lot. The vast majority of them, we told them to hold off and we would come back.
So when we put the mains in, we run the laterals from the street up to where we connect, that's when it's going to go all the way to the house.
They've done it on their private property, and we haven't done it on the city side. The city will do theirs.
So the sewer, the water and sewer laterals as part of our project go to the right-of-way line, just to the back of sidewalk. The property owners are responsible from there to the house. Okay, so some of these apparently are getting done. Laterals are getting swapped out now.
Some of them have been done already. I know some people were really early in the project and wanted.
And the residents are setting that work up?
You have to
Yes,
apply for
that's-
a grant too, and apply to have it done privately by the city.
Well,
So, like ours haven't been done yet, but my understanding is that when they did the roadway, they were gonna do our property as well.
yeah, the way it works is that what we would like to have happen is when we lay the new water main and we put our new copper service in, one of the contractors, and this is a DNR project of the grant. And the way the DNR sets it up is that we have to have certified bidder, contractors. They have to guarantee that they're going to meet the requirements of the federal government to get federal money. But they're not actually allowed to be our contractors. But we have to tell you, you can only use one of these two contractors. So really, you're contracting with them individually to finish that part, and then we're trying to get them to coordinate with us, and we have guarantees from them that they'll do certain things as part of that project. But really, it's your contract with them in order to be able to get reimbursed for that private section by the federal government. So some of the people were out early, and we were okay with that because we thought the project would be going on. But because it hasn't, that's kind of made some projects go a little bit earlier. But mainly what we're trying to do is get South Main Street and Mulberry to coordinate the lead lateral service connections with the water main projects.
And I know this funding stuff that Steve's, that is typical. Other projects I've heard have the same thing, that this funding pot is available, and there's certain requirements of how it gets done on private property. So that's why it's kind of confusing when he's explaining, but this happens on other projects as well, that the cities get the money.
It's just like how often my yard is being torn up and how much of my yard I'm losing, which I think is kind of your frustration. This woman up here is like, why is this so?
Well, when the lead lateral replacement happens, I don't know when that's happening. As I understood, most of them are going to happen when the main went in. When the project didn't go as we had expected, that kind of threw that whole thing into probably turmoil as well. There were plans to get some of those done this year. Well, that whole thing fell apart because we can't get the main in. So some folks probably did have people set up for this year and started that lateral replacement on private property, where now the rest of it to the street I won't be able to do until next year if I'm successful with this bid letting.
The one issue though is that your service should go in about the same time as ours.
Right.
I can't guarantee you because you're using a private contractor and he'll be trying to get up and down the street. And he obviously has other jobs, but we're trying to coordinate as close together as possible. And the water main, the sanitary sewer construction will start first because that's the deepest. So the deepest thing has to go in first. And then the water main will go in. And then the laterals and services will go in. And then the stormwater will go in. And so all those connections will be coming in and out of that area throughout the course of the whole summer. And then the sidewalk will probably be the last part along with the driveways. And so a full completion of the project as it moves from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, you're probably not, you're going to probably see a lot of that landscaping not occurring until the last feature of that phase.
2020.
No, most of it will be done in 2019. First phase is downtown. That should be done by mid-June. Yeah. Then the next phase is going to be down to East Lake Park Place from Water Street down to East Lake Park Place, and that should be done by August. Yeah. And then then you're starting to see the landscaping tends to be the last part. So if you're in that second section, you're looking at maybe up to September 1st being grading and seeding. Then the next two phases are south of there. One is from
Lake Park to Woodland Beach.
Woodland Beach, and that will be done in 19. So you'll probably see that finishing up in late October. Depending on how the project goes, the second phase might push into 19. Right now, we're trying to encourage, or 20. We're trying to encourage them to do it in 19. We've kind of done a lot of things, as James has said, that we want to encourage them to get it done in 19, but we're leaving it more flexible than we did the last time so that we encourage them to bid more. Give them more people an opportunity to bid and give us some reasonable bids. So that's kind of what you're going to look at. So it could be a mess for all summer long. And if you're on the south end, even at 20, but you really on the south end, you You probably won't notice much in 19, other than you can't, you have to go around the edges to get downtown. But that project pushes us over into 20, and then that 20 portion is when you'll notice it down on the south end, south of William Beach Road.
We're not going to lie to you. Construction projects are inconvenient. I mean, they're dirty. There's deep holes all over. Your access is going to be disrupted. That's the way these things go. And we're doing everything we can to try to keep those inconveniences to a minimum. But when you're talking deep trenches like we got to dig on this project to get the sewer and water in, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some patience. And I'm not going to lie to you. That's the way these things go. We've had several urban projects in my unit. We had Beaver Dam one year. We had Waupun the next year. We had Waterloo last year. People saw Columbus got all torn up last year. If you were around these projects, you see what goes on. There's piles of dirt all over the place. There's pipes. There's equipment, and you know, it's a messy business. But when it gets done, I mean, take a look at that Columbus project. I think that really turned out nice. And although we had our challenges with Waterloo, that really turned out well too. In the end, even though we had some delays with the contractor, it still looks really nice. Sure, good question.
My question is more immediate. I understand that the roadway has been delayed, and I understand when it happens, it's going to be a mess. What about the mess now? You know, we've got holes all over, we've got 2 big holes in our yard that are wide open.
And this is kind of the things that other folks have been talking about, and maybe we need to get a list of these projects or these areas. Yep, I understand that, and if the work is done and it's a restoration thing that they're waiting on, maybe we can put a little pressure to get those guys to clean that up. But yeah, and I don't know if the utility work is done and they just haven't filled the hole in. I don't know, because I'm not really watching any of that utility work.
I guess when I came here tonight, I kind of expected an update on the entire project. I understand you're just concerned with the roadway, but folks here are concerned with the whole picture.
Yes, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. If there's a list of areas that have been sitting for a while, and we can put some pressure on the utility companies to come out and restore it. I don't know that this is the first I've heard of some of this stuff. So
Because from what you say, the roadway doesn't start till next year, that means we're going to have a mess. And granted, this is a minor mess compared to the major one, but nonetheless, it's going to be a mess for 2 years, not one.
yes, yep, you're right. And I'm not going to deny that. And even the restoration effort, it's not going to be like it was before they dug the hole. It needs to sit till next year when we come out and build a new roadway, and then the restoration effort that we need to do with the roadway project is going to clean it up to the final state. What's that?
What do we do in the meantime? I would just let the grass grow to 3 feet tall and just let it be?
I need to look at it. Is there rock? You said there's rocks or something there, or there's a hole, or?
Well, there's 2 holes in our yard, and there's holes throughout, but, you know, there are holes that are covered with plywood or wide open, like in our yard.
Well, that's something we're going to have to take a look at. Like I said, I wasn't aware of this. I came here tonight to talk to you about what we're planning on doing going forward. And I understand that the utility relocation effort sounds like it's left a mess out here. I was aware of it downtown. I saw the sidewalk. We're having those guys replace a lot of that stuff that looked like cow pies. It looked terrible, and it shouldn't have been there. And we started hearing people tripping on it. So we're working on getting that redone. Now I'm starting to hear out in the southern area, we've got issues too that need to be resolved. And I need some time to look into this and get my guys looking at this. But I'm not going to tell you it's going to be the way it was before they did the relocation. Because for them to try to restore everything to be perfect, it's probably not going to be perfect until we get done with the project next year, when we're able to get it in the final state that it's going to be. This needs to last till next year when we can build the project. And I'm not going to promise you that it's going to be exactly like it was before they started, but holes and plywood and rocks and stuff like that doesn't need to be out there. That stuff needs to go be taken care of, and we will do that. If that's the case, if it's a safety issue, they should know better. Like I said, I need some time to look into this.
You mentioned it was going to be deep. How deep?
I'm going to rely on my lead design, Jeremy. How deep? I mean, we've got areas that are 20 feet deep, some trenches. We've got some that are shallower than that.
Yeah, for depth, it depends what we're doing. The really neat stuff for certain areas, I want to say just north of Phillips Lane, down about the golf course, the sanitary sewer is going to be pretty deep, deeper about 15 feet below the paving surface. I mean, it's going to be a pretty deep hole. That's order for the design. The pit is to get gravity feed from the south end all the way down to Water Street, so it's a continuous run without having to put in a lift station.
Yeah, so to accommodate the pitch.
Yep. Yeah. It's fairly flat, but yeah, that way you can avoid having a lift station in between. So it's a nice long run, but it's a mile-long run of a straight stretch. And then obviously in between there's the hills that come up, and then they come back down to get the same beach. So it's not so much we're digging deeper into the strict grade, just the terrain above that pipe is going a little bit higher, so we're going to dig quite a bit deeper. The water is going to be standard 6 or 7 feet, depending on where it's at. Storm sewer about 6 feet. Those are pretty similar. Yeah, sanitary is going to be, that's what we're talking about, is very deep. And obviously, when we're going down that deep, having that shoring and then pull back enough width to actually get in the hole, it's going to be a lot of dirt piled up in the area there too when we're working.
And laterals will come up out of the sanitary sewer, which could be 20 feet deep. And they'll come up to your property line, and then they have to attach to your existing sanitary sewer lines. So it depends on what that bed is. You can find those, and water main will come in about 6 feet deep, or water services will come off and be about 6 feet deep, depending on what's in your yard already. Yeah. Those are a little easier to find because of shut offs.
I guess you were right now.
Seeing that it's going to be here, and bicyclists going down South Main. They're looking down South Main, the excavators did, and they were doing utility work, dug up the asphalt. We've got big potholes, we've got loose asphalt that's almost like gravel. And when you ride down South Main and the bicycle, you hug the curb because when you drive down South Main, you don't want to be, hey, we're near the road, you want to be a project. We're going to be linking those shoulders and pump those so that we don't have ruts, we don't have loose asphalt. Bicyclists can go, and we're going to just say no bicyclists, no two wheels, because that's kind of where we are right now. Because I can really run that.
That's kind of a city maintenance issue, right? But what happened is that Intercon did traffic diversion as part of their construction, and they pushed a lot of heavy traffic off to the side on a street that wasn't really designed to handle it at the outside edges. And a lot of the blacktop rolled up. We have requested that they repair that. They have given us an indication they will. If they don't, we've taken measures to fix it. But it's kind of like all the leaded service holes all over the city. We contract for all our asphalt replacement. So our asphalt contractor, first we got your bid done, and once the pre-con's done, they'll start doing our patches, but they generally come in like 3 times. So they'll fix as many as they can in probably around June 15th, and they'll come back around maybe the end of July and fix a bunch more.
So there's a plan.
We have a plan, yeah. It's kind of a, I really don't want to do it if I don't have to. I want Intercon to do it because they caused it, and then to top it off, I don't want to put a lot of expensive asphalt on the street and tear it out next year, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Once again, Intercon's another one that we can put some pressure on at the state level, because that was not so much related to your relocation, more to the work that was needed to get out of the way of the roadway project.
That was clearly an Intercon issue.
Okay.
What's the layout for the traffic pattern while this is under construction?
I think I'm going to have Jeremy talk about traffic control. I mean, we did have I don't think we have the plan with us today, but that was past meetings, but maybe you can tell them a little bit about where we're taking traffic in the different stages.
Yeah, in general, for the streets, while the project's under construction, the through traffic going on the Highway 89 traffic, driving in and out through town, through traffic, is going to be detoured. We're going to send them on 18 over 26 up to 94, up and around, so a lot of the heavy trucks are going to be driving through and not stopping in town going that way. As for traffic local traffic, how do you get around to your houses and how do you get from one side of the city to the other during construction. That is going to vary depending upon the stage. As we move further south, we'll be using side streets. We'll have a signed alternate business access route for most of our businesses to get in and out. Locals do know your side streets a lot better than anyone else and where you need to go and how to get there. Generally, you're not going to drive through the main section. It's going to be pretty tore up, depending on where they're going to be at. The whole road will not be tore up at the same time, though. That's the most important thing. They're going to start down here, and they're basically end of June. We're hoping that they should finish this downtown section, so that'll be paved and open. While further south, as you're getting down towards East Lake Parkway, it's going to be tore up and built up. So you'll be able to get in and out here downtown in June, and as we keep going, more of the road will be opened up to actually be able to drive and access. And likewise, when they're working here downtown, if you're down near Woodland Beach, you're going to have the same road you have out there today, roughly, the drive to get in and out to your driveways. We won't be working out there at that time. That road won't work, it won't start until later on in the year. I think we can give you exact specific routes, but general answer, we're going to be utilizing some of the side streets based upon where the main every work over is towed up.
If you watch where they put in where they do the mill and overlay this year, you'll have a pretty good idea where the local access routes are. They'll be like Grove and Fair. Grove headed north, Fair headed south. And then depending on where the phase is, depends on what cross streets you come across on.
Is there going to be any work done on Grove Street? Because that's rougher than the top.
Yeah, they're really overlay. Paul Rexing Street. And they're doing some curb work.
One thing too, for residents that are on Main Street, we are looking to maintain access. We have right there, it's like, before we were talking about that really deep sanitary sewer where we have that giant trench in there. For the most part, that trench is going to have to be filled in, unless they're having problems with something. If everything's going along as planned, they're going to have that trench filled in every night for their progress they have going on. And you should have access mostly to your driveways. There'll be times, obviously, we're not going to get access. We're doing concrete. Obviously, when we're doing the trench or water that day or in front of your house, you're not going to be able to get out of your driveway there. You have to plan ahead or further away to get access. When we pour pavement right in front, that's about a week where you're not going to drive across that pavement. Well, when we do pavement, we'll do like one half the road, then we'll wait for that to get strengthened in the other half. So if you're in the one half to get paved, you're not going to get up. We're doing your driveway and sidewalk, that's going to be about another week to sort of get that concrete cured up. So for instance, there, but for a good majority of the project, you're going to be able to get in and out of your driveway at night, but during the day, it's probably going to be a no-go. You'll probably need to plan ahead if you need to leave somewhere, probably after 7 a.m., not to maybe move your car further away, depending upon where the work is, if you're right in the heart of where everything's going on at that time frame.
The existing utilities have to be kept on too. So if you think about it, if you're laying all new pipe in the ground and then you have to keep all the existing pipe there, where does it all fit? And so those are the challenges that you're going to have. That's why that makes it a little bit more difficult than just digging a trench and laying it. You got the existing sanitary sewers in there. You got to figure out how you're going to handle that. I think they're going to dig that out as they go, and then every night they have to reconnect the south end to the new north end. And the water main runs in the same trench because back when they did that in 1910, they hand dug it all. So they put the water in with the sanitary sewers, so the water's coming out somehow in that project on a lot of it, so they're going to probably have to have a temporary water main line somewhere. So it's a complex project.
It's like I said before, if you've seen some of these projects that we do, it is a messy, and it's inconvenient, and it's aggravating, and that's the only way to get those utilities in the ground. There's just really no room to do all this, and it just, there's going to be times you're not going to be able to get into your driveway, and you're going to probably have to park a ways, and there's going to be times when it rains out at a really bad time, and your car gets all dirty and messy, and it's dusty, and I'm not going to try to color this as painless as I can, because everybody's got to give a little bit here, and I'm just hoping that everybody focuses on the product in the end. It's going to get done. It's not going to get touched for 40 or 50 years after it gets done. This is investment of state taxpayer money being invested right in your front yard here, and it's going to look really nice when it gets done. And it's getting to that process is it's going to take patience on everybody's part.
Just wondering if you have any contingency plans in case there are any unforeseen delays again.
As far as,
A way to either, be able to keep the project moving.
well, when we come up with our production rates, figuring out how long it's going to take to complete a stage or complete a project, we do have some delay factors in there, anticipating, we can't anticipate a major thing that's going to delay a project by a month, but there are certain things that we've got to add some cushion in that schedule. And that's how we do all our state highway projects, is there's when you're working up how long it's going to take, you've got a little bit of slack in there, but it's anticipating that the majority of the things that we could run into, hopefully caught in design. It takes several years to design these projects, and granted, underground, I don't know, something that got built in 1910, I don't know what's down there. And, for us to try to speculate on covering everything, almost impossible, but the things that we can do, we've got time requirements when the contractor has to complete certain portions. So if he starts getting behind, he needs to activate more forces to get things done. And there is what we call liquidated damages when he doesn't meet those particular intermediate dates. That puts some pressure on the contractor to work a little harder, invest the resources to get it done so we can continue moving the project. Now, the only trade-off on that is that the stiffer and tighter you get with those liquidated damages, you start to see less bidders going after the project. So that's the balance we're trying to weigh here. We want to get the project back open for the residents, but we don't want to nail the contractor too hard, otherwise we end up in the situation, and I'm not saying that's the reason why we didn't have that many bidders, but that's kind of that balance that we're trying to get to. We want to keep them investing the resources they need to finish it and stay on top of the project, but at the same time, not penalize them too hard where we get nobody bidding on it. But I hope that answers your question, that there is some time in our production rates.
If we had Noah's Ark, there would be phases, there would be points where we could cut it off and say this is the end for this year. We have looked at that. So it's not like it would be impossible. It's not something we want to see happen. It's not typical of what happens, but then last year wasn't typical of what happened.
But any other questions?
Which side is the bike path going to be on?
There's bikes on both sides, isn't there?
There will be accommodations on both sides of the street for bicycles.
Maybe you can just describe what the cross section is. It's two 12-foot lanes in the middle.
Yeah, so the previous meetings, downtown is going to have parking on both sides, and there'll be two marked lanes going for downtown, 5-foot lanes. From Veterans South, there's only be parking on the east side, and the west side won't be parking. So there'll be one marked lane on the east side next to the parking, and then there'll be another 4-foot marked lane next to the curb. So there'll be the curb, there'll be 4 feet, and there'll be the traffic lane on the west side of the roadway for bikes. So we got a 5-foot lane next to the parking lane, 5-foot width, and then a 4-foot wide space will be marked for bikes on the other side of the road.
So bike lanes in both directions, the full length of the project. Parking on one side, starting at what point then?
It's kind of from Veterans South to just past Sandy Beach Road has the parking.
Okay, you have that on here, right?
Yeah, it is shown there.
Folks can come up here and look at it. So it's a question for
Where do these 5-foot sidewalks come from?
88.
American Disabilities Act requirements.
That's hard.
Yeah, that is a standard EDA width.
That became the ADA standard because you'd be able to get a wheelchair down and turn it around.
And have someone.
Yeah, it's preferred to be 5 feet. I mean, there are exceptions where you can have 4, and every so often you have to have a turnout where folks, 2 people can get past each other. But it's preferred to have a 5-foot, and that's what we design in pretty much all of our state highway projects.
There's a lot of conversation that people are getting a lot of bike or two.
think the Foxconn project had anything to do with the lack of bidding, and if so, what's the probability of that happening again?
I will say that one of the contractors that did not bid on the project had mentioned that the upcoming Foxconn work was something they were very interested in, and it may have influenced the bidding that himself and other contractors may have been considering. So I believe that might have had something to do with it. It was pretty much open back then. I mean, there was some comments made about what that infrastructure improvement was going to look like. Where the funding was going to come from, I don't know if that was set yet. So maybe some of these guys were speculating this was going to happen really fast and that more of the plans would be ready such that they didn't want the work here. I don't know. That's just some of the comments that we had heard is they mainly said that the market's doing quite well. Private sector work is all over the place. They could basically fill up on that stuff. And a lot of it was closer to their home offices, and that's a lot less mobilization and travel costs for their guys to stay closer to home. And I mean, that's a good economy is kind of what these guys are telling us.
So what's our confidence that we'll get more bidders this fall versus what we got this spring? What confidence do we have that we'll get more bidders in the fall when we let it out for?
I can't predict. It's all speculation, you know, and people can get upset with me. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. I can't guarantee anything. It would be pure speculation. We've done things that we can to try to make this a biddable project. Hopefully coming in November instead of March. We're going to get a few people that are on the front side looking for work for the 2019 construction year. I'm hoping that's the big one. We weren't able to do it the first time. We are able to do it now.
Don't you think though that, I mean, we had a lot of debate about when to relet and how to separate it up. And your Bureau of Bidding was the one that said that they strongly recommend bidding this fall, that they felt that we would get.
They felt that if you're going to do it, that your chances would be better to see more competition with an earlier let. Yeah, and I really don't even want to, it's pure speculation. I mean, somebody could make a comment about some other work somewhere that could affect us, and once again, we're in the same boat. So, I mean, it's all speculation, trying to, you know, likewise with the Mulberry Street. We don't know what's going to happen with that one either as far as your project. It may be the fact that people aren't interested in either project. I don't know.
One thing I interject, just for example, the March let for WisDOT, we advertised 43 construction projects statewide, along with the Lake Mills project. 4 of them were rejected, I'm assuming for higher prices. The other 39 were let and went through. So 4 of them didn't get let, and 39 of them we got bidders on for these are various projects. Some are bridge projects, one overlays, some others were reconstructs like this, statewide, so it can depend, but it wasn't necessarily like we only had 2 projects left, nothing happened. I mean, it's difficult to tell where the contractors are depending upon which region. Except Foxconn, I don't know how many are going to come from this area and go all the way over there to work, and vice versa. Or maybe if they weren't there, we might have had some from southeast that didn't work over here. And other private work, there's other developments going on too that some contractors say they have better profit margins on private work, so it's more lucrative for them to try and go for those. And so we don't know when the Foxconn came on really quick last year. Here's some funding bidding going through, and they're building right now, whereas we've been working on this design for 4 years, shooting for our dates. So it's honestly unfortunate, it's speculative on hopefully who we can bid, so that's why we're going through and retooling like, all right, is there anything we can do better? Can we make it more attractive? Loosen up some restrictions, give the contractors some more options on how they're going to build it and how they could sequence it to make it a little bit more attractive to more people or they prefer, instead of too rigid on doing this, and this, well, maybe you can do these, switch these other steps here, and things around.
So the plan is then for this year to finish up utilities, hopefully clean up yards, fill holes, and then bid in November, and then start the project again in
March of next year. As soon as the frost is out of the ground and the snow stops, the contractors are going to want to get started, and we're going to let them start as early as they can get started.
So if I was thinking right, 25 foot wide for the roadway, 5 foot for the sidewalk. That seems like it's wide, that's wider than it currently is, right? And is that excess space coming from the right of way, or is that coming from my personal property?
I don't believe we didn't acquire
We didn't acquire any new right of way, so it's all coming with the existing 66 feet. That's why the tree lines are getting narrow, that's why the trees took it.
So what, Jeremy, your cross-section is a 5-foot sidewalk, which is about a foot off the right-of-way line. How big of a terrace do we have between the sidewalk and the curb and gutter?
We got a 5-foot green area for grass between the sidewalk and the back of curb and gutter. Curb and gutter is 30 inches wide with 2-foot pan. Then we have the parking lane, which is 6 feet, I think. Yeah, 6 feet parking, 5-foot bike lane, and 2 12-foot driving lanes, another 4-foot bike lane, curb and gutter, terrace, and sidewalk on the other side.
And that all fits in the 66-foot width then?
Yeah, basically the back of the sidewalk is pretty much between 6 to 10 inches within the right-of-way line for the whole project. It fits right in there. Sidewalk is pushed as far out as we can for that side there, so. And we didn't have to buy any additional right-of-way to put in the sidewalk or expand anything.
Now, a typical standard for the city for a street that big would be 80 feet of right of way. Because we want to see a bigger tree lawn, because the tree lawn is snow storage. It also allows for bigger trees, because when you get into that 5 foot, it's so tight that trees just don't do well. And if they do well, then they're pushing the curb and the sidewalk all the time.
Okay, we're gonna be here for a while, so, stick around. We plan on being done at 6:30, but maybe you guys mind sticking around for another half hour and give people a chance to answer a few questions? Okay, well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
What's it? How's it going? It's going.